Jorge Martin eyeing the big prize. Can he complete a double victory here? He was a runaway winner from start to finish in yesterday's 13. All about with anybody, you can deny Jorge Martin completing his second double of the season. Ambient temperatures just under 30 degrees. It's a very warm up lap here then for the laps of enthralling MotoGP action here. You do wonder, the big question to pose, Lewis, is just how long can Bezzecchi and Bagnaia resist the pain and the fatigue of those injuries sustained last weekend. Lights out and we are going. San Marino. It's a superb launch from that 10th MotoGP pole from Jorge Martin. He leads the way just as he did in the sprint yesterday. Marco Bezzecchi's got away well too. Bagnaia didn't get a good start. Pedrosa has a moment there on the
Really good start from Miguel Oliveira. He's up 3 into 7th place, just ahead of the Marquez brothers. Aleix Espargaro is 10th. He's lost 4 places off the line, so 4 starts for the 2 factory Aprilias. Aleix Espargaro has actually dropped behind Luca Marini now into 11th. He now close to Bagnaia than Bagnaia is to Martin. We saw them almost going side by side through 4 and 5, but Bagnaia now settling into 2nd place. Crucial moment, the crucial move for Brad Binder in these early stages to get ahead of Dani Pedrosa.
Advantage count as he's up there in 8th place.
Yeah, a really good start to the Grand Prix for Marc Marquez, who did launch himself up the order early in the race in Catalonia, only to slip back as the race unfolded. He'll be hoping that close to the front of this race as possible. As soon as he's got Jorge Martin right ahead of him, that will just keep him dialed in, just keep the adrenaline pumping. You feel the longer this race goes on, the more of a physical challenge it's going to be for Bagnaia, particularly if Martin starts to. Bagnaia once again able to carry that tighter line through turn 4. Martin then has the better look at 5. We now ride through 6 with Jorge Martin, the pole man, looking back at Bagnaia. Bezzecchi, the fastest rider on track. He's at the fastest.
He's 7/10 of a second behind Bezzecchi, so he's found a couple of tenths actually to the Mini VR46 rider on this 4th lap.
Although, to be fair, he did lose a lot of that in the first sector, so it's kind of restored Binder to where he was when the lap began. Martin
He's in wide, he goes in really wide. That's going to drop him back into the clutches of Binder and of course cost him time to Bagnaia directly ahead of him. He was able to regroup, but just running slightly offline there. Bezzecchi has cost him half a dozen bite. Maverick Vinales victory. Coming from a long way back though is Marco Bezzecchi into Quercia corner. Bezzecchi.
Brilliant move on the brakes into Quercia. He's now going to make that move all over again.
He's going to be kicking himself inside that helmet right now, Marco Bezzecchi, because it was a beautiful move to get into that 2nd place on Pecco Bagnaia on the brakes. And
Bezzecchi will also not only play into the hands of Martin, but also of course into the hands of Binder, who will just close in on that leading trio. There he is on the 33 now, coming through your picture. Fastest rider on circuit, just a second off the lead now.
Quicker than
Look at the leading 4 then, led by Jorge Martin. This trio of Ducatis, the top 3 in the World Championship, the top 3 in this Grand Prix. There's the gap that we're tracking between Bezzecchi and Binder. Not getting any closer really on this lap.
8th place, the next best Honda. You've got to go all the way back down to Joan Mir, who is, well, Stefan Bradl actually, the test rider, who was in 20th place.
Talk about the contrast from one Sunday to the next for Aleix Espargaro. He's down in 13th place.
We just saw, didn't we, on the previous lap, Martin Bagnaia and Bezzecchi picked up their speed, going to the 131s. It was just too hot for Binder to handle.
Turn 14. There it is, into turn 14. The yellows briefly came out in the 4th sector just before we're...
Seeing is, I'll be honest, I didn't expect Pecco to be able, with his injuries, match lap for lap, absolutely match Martin, but he can. But it's another thing to get past.
Heroes of both of the factory KTMs down on consecutive laps.
Now is the wild card. The old warhorse himself, Dani Pedrosa, in 4th place. He was always a genius, wasn't he, at rear tyre management, helped by his lightweight and his silky smooth riding style, not overstretching the tyre.
Increasing presence in the back at the front of this Grand Prix as Martin, Bagnaia and Bezzecchi continue to trade lap times in the low 32s. Pedrosa is in the 31s yet again. 32.2 for the first 2, 32.3 for Bezzecchi.
This guy is pure class. We're talking about Dani Pedrosa, a rider who's had over 150 Grand Prix podiums. If you want to know about his stature in this sport, Piero and Miller's incident's going to be reviewed after the race. Only again, it's another personal best lap from the number 26, a 1:31.876. He's just 6/10 now behind Marco Bezzecchi, striking distance to the front of this Grand Prix, 1.1 seconds behind Jorge Martin. This is at the end of 2018. He just didn't feel like he was razor sharp on the brakes to attack Pecco Bagnaia. Of course, wary as well that he didn't want to do anything that was going to jeopardise the world champions' hopes of a sprint podium. But this is a different get to the second as Bagnaia just gets in too hot, doesn't he? Oh, that was close. That was into the faster than Bezzecchi through the first half of this lap 14, which will take us into the second half of this San Marino Grand Prix. There is Pedrosa on the 26 bike, just out of your picture now as they come through the tight first gear, turn 14. That soft rear tyre doing an incredible job, calling on every ounce of his mercurial talent right now, isn't he? A 1:32.485, a half race distance on that soft rear is very, very impressive by Mark.
For his best MotoGP results at the moment in 8th place. He's up behind Miguel Oliveira. That is a crash for Paul Espargaro. Unfortunately, that's an all too familiar sight.
You just wonder at what point do the painkillers, do the adrenaline start losing effect here for the two Ducatis behind him, Bagnaia and Bezzecchi, who have done an incredible job to keep themselves in this victory battle as we're on lap 15, 16 seconds behind Marquez. Taka Nakagami is a further 2 seconds back. The LCR Honda rider in 18th place. Of course, Mir has crashed out. So Marquez in 6th, he is really starting to
have bolted in this one in the form of Jorge Martin through the first sector on this lap. The advantage increased even further up to 1.2 seconds. That was Bagnaia's slowest lap for quite some time, a 1:32.4 last time around.
Bagnaia very, very quickly.
Yeah, Martin's pulled the pin in this one. The lead now almost 2 seconds as they cross the line. 31.9 for Martin, and that was a noticeable drop in pace from Bagnaia last time around. He did a 1:30
36 points going into the Barcelona Grand Prix a week ago. It was 66, wasn't it? So Jorge Martin inflicting maximum damage in terms of the championship. Look how quickly, having got through on
Patti, albeit painted in a very different colour today, that he was looking at yesterday. It was Bagnaia who held Pedrosa off in the latter stages of the sprint to hold on to a podium. But does Bagnaia have the physical condition to even fight back if Pedrosa catch around, which was as quick as Pedrosa was going? So if Bagnaia's pace does continue to tail off, then he might well find himself coming under further pressure later on. But all the credit in the world to the reigning world champion. He's just responded with another 1:32.
HM testing. Of course, he's been running that experimental carbon fibre chassis. What crucial data and information he's been gathering on that chassis here this weekend. But here's your runaway race leader, Jorge Martin. He didn't see anybody's rear tyre.
And from that point on, Martin has been comfortable at the front.
Yeah, 16, 17, 18, those laps were fundamental, weren't they? They were the platform to this victory. It looks like being a dominant victory for the Martinator.
To avoid making those odd mistakes which will just light up the eyes of Dani Pedrosa behind him. 5 laps remain in this San Marino Grand Prix. That mistake from Bagnaia has probably handed second place to Marco Bezzecchi.
What would be a dream podium, could you believe it? 154th career podium on the line here for Dani Pedrosa.
Bezzecchi once again in the 1:31s. This is coming a little bit too late for him to chase down Jorge.
Producing his own heroics. A superhero effort from Bezzecchi, given the damage to his left hand. That was one of multiple injuries. He got a big whack on his right head, a nasty knock on his back as well. As we mentioned, just the left hand that's the worst of several injuries.
And 9th place. Alex Marquez runs 10th at the moment. He's got Aleix Espargaro and John Zarco right behind him, with Fabio Quartararo having a poor lap last time around, which is probably put paid to any hopes of him salvaging a top 10.
It's a career best.
His name is Alex Marquez. You can see to the background on that iconic Fausto Cassini tribute livery. He's got Aleix Espargaro for company. That's the battle for the final place in the top 10.
Pedrosa back in the 131s late on here. A 131.999 from Pedrosa.
Been out of corners. We saw the moment there out of turn 14 a couple of laps ago. He had that problem coming out of turn 10 earlier on as he desperately tries to get that bright yellow Ducati stopped into turn 14. There will be 1 lap to go once they can Marquez. So Marini now up into 7th place, although just as I say that, he's lost those places back again. No problems really on the plate of Jorge Martin right now, although his lead has come down to 1.4 seconds. The focus is all on this battle. Bagnaia versus Pedrosa.
The checkered flag, we'll be hearing some of his tunes, the DJ post-race. Bagnaia then does hold on for an incredible podium, one of the toughest podiums of his Grand Prix career. It is 2 4th places, but Dani points behind Pecco Bagnaia. So in the space of 7 days, he's taken 30 points out of Bagnaia in the championship. But huge respect, huge admiration to Bezzecchi and Bagnaia for the pair of them to leave Misano. Not a big fan of this Misano circuit. A couple of crashes here in 2021, a lowly 9th here last year, and he said in the pre-event press conference, yeah, come here with pretty low expectations, and he leaves with a pole, a sprint, and a Grand Prix.
Of course, maximised his points return from Barcelona on a weekend where Aprilia were dominant. He made sure he finished best of the rest in 3rd place, and it was his turn to be the dominant force this weekend. We'll never know whether a fully